Okay.
We are live. What? So we'll give a couple minutes before we get started here. Let me turn this ringer off. All right. I'm just going to type in. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. We are up and running. So today, just so you know, if you haven't been following me, I like to do interviews that's relative to the real estate industry, answering questions for potential buyers and sellers. And then I've also been doing a lot of videos interviewing local businesses to help support small businesses here in the community here in Cleveland. But today we are on a real estate topic, which is appraisal. We always get a lot of questions around appraisal. So, what better way to answer our questions than to have a wonderful, long time appraiser to join us, Anise Marshall Glenn. And so, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hello, my name is Anise Marshall Glenn. I'm a mother of two young children, and I'm currently married. And I've been appraising for over about 17 years.
Okay.
My coverage area is Cuyahoga County, Lake, Geauga, Lorraine. I also worked at the Cuyahoga County Recorder's and Auditor's Office. While working at the auditor's office is how I gained interest in appraising.
Okay. Very good. So, so you kind of answered that question. You've been in the business for 17 years. I know you've probably seen so many changes come and go with the market shifting, going up and down.
Yeah.
So my first question, I guess I'll go through is for an appraisal, how long is an appraisal good for?
Well, it varies. For conventional, it's 12 months, FHA, 4 months, and VA, 6 months.
Okay. Okay. So what if someone were to get a private appraisal? They hire you just to come out. I want to know the value of my home. How long could they expect for that appraisal to be good for?
Normally, we call it the effective day of the appraisal. So the day that we come out, that day.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Um, so
Because anything can happen, once we leave. It could be a fire or, anything that could cause a shift in the value.
okay. So, does it help when someone is having an appraisal, especially even myself as a real estate agent, and we know that there's going to be appraisal done? Does it help if we leave maybe a list of improvements to the property there for you to review? Do you look at that, or do you just kind of bypass that?
No, I always ask for improvements. I
Okay.
ask the realtor to either email me or leave a list of improvements. I also use MLS data. So if the realtor have a listing and put all the different updates and improvements, I use that if the list is not provided. So I include all that in the appraisal report to
Okay.
verify the estimated value.
Okay. And what about comps? Does it help if, like as an agent, if I run comps and leave that for you at the property as well?
We pretty much pull our own comps. We'll take it to be nice, but we pretty much pull our own.
Okay. So is there ever a situation where you come up with your final report and then they're like, well, you didn't use, and it comes back lower. You always hear about when it's lower, but they don't complain when it's above, the price point that they
Right.
expected. But um would you go back and look to say, like, if I'm saying, oh, your value is coming in much lower than what we were anticipating, I had these comps over here,
Right.
would you go back and revisit that, or like is what you
No, you can review the comps or the sales that the realtor provide.
Okay. So another question is, So urban areas. This is like the inner city areas is really rough in terms of trying to come up with the comps and values. Um, Primarily being that when you look at some of the areas, it's some areas are very deteriorated. A lot of homes that need repair, but then you'll go down the street a little bit, and then you might see this newer construction home on the property. And then in between all of that is an investor that comes through, and there's a deal on the street, a property that needs some work, and they want to renovate this home. So, but they're like, okay, we have a new construction over here, but then all these other deteriorated homes over here. What can an investor do to, or what should they look at or plan to get the max value?
Well, first I would suggest hiring an appraiser, but
Okay.
it's more understanding the different markets in the area, because you may have a REO or foreclosure market, and you may have the average sales where there's very little improvements, or you may have the higher end when there's a complete renovation, or like you said, the new construction. So you have to understand the different markets within that area,
Okay.
and what the appraiser would will provide that information. Okay, this is based on what the investor provides. We would say, okay, you fall into this area, and this is what the value range may be.
Okay. So wait, so you said you would hire an appraiser. So a investor, if you're looking in the area, could we could call you to come out ahead of time before buying the property or before getting started? And if so, would you kind of tell them like the improvements that they need to do?
Yes, most of the time the investor provides the scope of work of what they're going to do, what they're going
Okay.
to, what type of improvements they're going to put into the property. So the appraiser can either come out to the property, they can do a desktop appraisal based on the scope of work provided, and give the investor an idea of the value that it may come in.
Okay. Would you mind giving like kind of like a range of what something like that would cost to have them do? I'm guessing it wouldn't be like a full appraisal. It's just kind of
A full appraisal ranges depending. It can range from 350 to four. It just depends. Um, Desktop maybe two, and that means the appraiser's not coming out to the property. We just strictly researching the area, and we're going off of the information that's provided from the investor.
okay. Okay.
It, okay.
That would be very helpful, I think, for a lot of investors. Obviously, it's an added cost, but at the end of the day, they'll have a better, clear understanding of where the value would be. As a real estate agent, we give our price opinions by looking at comps, but the scope of work that you do on there is more. It's more in the realm of where it's actually going to come in at the end of the day from your expertise. Um, so, in terms of when you're considering renovations, is there any like tips or anything and someone could follow? I wrote some examples here of like a full bath. If you add a full bath or you do something, it would give a value of this, or a half bath would give a value of X amount. Like, so if you're taking a house and say that house is a 3 bedroom, one bath, if you were to add in one more full bath, would that give an extra value to them, or is
It
there?
may or may not. It's everything is basically market driven. So in some areas it can have some effect, and in some areas it may not. It just each area is different.
Okay. And then what about finished basements? Finished basements that, I know it's below grade, but how do you account for anything if so there's no walkout basement, but they have a partially finished basement and a full bath in the basement. Does that play any factor in your?
Well, like I said, everything is considered. Like you said, adding a bathroom, but like everything is pretty much market based. So the basement, yes, but we have to see how that finished basement, based on my market research, how it affects that market and
Okay.
how much it someone is willing to pay for that finished basement or extra bathroom, etc.
Okay. Okay. So, so in distress areas, I'm gonna kind of move over to like that East Cleveland area, which is a highly distressed area. But at one point in time, East Cleveland, that was part of that Millionaires Row, right?
Right.
And so there's always been for many years a lot of speculation on that area of the feeling that like University Circle and that University Hospital,
Right.
we're running out of inventory in that area. So where is left for them to go is to start to spill over into that East Cleveland area. And it's interesting because probably even for the last 10 years or so, we've had this same conversation like it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I think personally, I do believe that East Cleveland, it just has to turn around, right? It's just part of that revitalization. Like we're at the bottom, but at a certain
Mm-hmm.
point, it's going to have to go back up. So the question is, who wants to be the first to tap into that market to kind of take that on? And so what we're seeing in the marketplace is some outside investors starting to tap into that market a little bit. And one of the things that I've seen that they're trying to do is legal, I don't know, but what they're trying to do is to raise those prices is they're buying the property, they're doing the renovation, but then they're reselling the property to themselves. And so it's still through another entity, but they're doing that so on the tax records that it can show like, oh, this property sold for $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question to you is, I'm sure you've seen all kind of things go on, but if you were looking at a property and you saw something like that, would you consider that as a comp?
No, I would not. Especially if I see that trend of that same investor um,
Hmm.
transferring it over to a similar entity. No, a pretty knowledgeable appraiser would be able to recognize that.
Okay, okay, and so also with that being said, if you want to be that first person to go in there to kind of do those renovations on the property, like what should you plan for when doing something like that? And then secondly, how do we get max dollars? And as the appraiser going in, would you look outside of that East Cleveland area to pull in comps?
If there is no um, recent comps, you can go to a similar area, um, meaning similar amenities, school districts, etc. Um, to come up with a value. But first, we will try to find sales in that area, and we may go back in time. So everything is research based, so we can try to get an idea of what renovated homes in East Cleveland selling for. So we
Okay.
can go back and then come back to previous um, sales, and if there's very little, we can go to another city that's similar to East Cleveland,
Okay.
and we have to explain that.
Okay. Is there anything that will make the value just kind of like jump, or is there anything that can be done to take a value from like $60,000 up to, we'll just say like 100 plus or whatever?
That's I can't really answer that because, like I said, everything is research and market driven. So I'll give you an example. Um, Beechwood,
Mm-hmm.
people paying top dollar for non renovated homes. just for the school district.
Mm-hmm.
So um, you also have people paying top dollar for location. Like you have some parts of Cleveland on the west side where they're paying 200, where before they renovated it, they wasn't going for that much. So it all depends on the market. It can be it's different things that affect the market. It can be social, economic, government, and environmental factors. So right now in East Cleveland, it may be the school district, it may be the government that's kind of affecting the market. And also going back to revitalization, I believe I saw um, can can remember the website that they are providing some grants for workers in university hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So that may have an effect on value. People may start purchasing certain sectors of East Cleveland, and that you may see growth there. I don't know, but different things like that does has an effect.
Did you do or have you done any work over in that Glenville area?
I believe so. Which part? Which,
Like that Ashbury area. It's
yes. Oh, I've done a lot of work over there within the last 4 or 5 years. I'm
it's
very familiar.
that is a very interesting area as well because at one point a lot of large homes, right? Mansions at one point with butler suites inside of them. And at one point you can go down many of those streets and the homes are deteriorated.
Right.
You don't go through there at nighttime, type of scenario and situation. And so now when you drive through the community night and day, right?
Right.
So, they've done a lot of work, but I guess I've noticed that it's taking years. Some people may kind of look up and say, "Oh, that happened overnight," but I guess it's just that gradual growth. And is there typically like a time frame of what if like that cycle of what it really takes? Is there a certain or like an increment where you see values just start to go up?
Well, like in that area, I started doing a lot of those homes is now selling for maybe 2 to even 3. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of those homes are green homes. So
Yeah.
um, like I said, I started at about 4 years, so now I'm starting to see more. But a lot of those sales, the increase in value was due to the type of quality of improvements, and also um, the incentives, tax abatements, the grants, etc.
Okay. So do you look at that tax when you're doing the appraisal, tax incentives and different things as well?
Yes, yes. So, for instance, homes like that, I'm only comparing them to homes that's been had green renovations, tax abatements, um, and also consider the incentives as well.
Okay.
So
Oh,
that's a separate market.
okay.
So that's a they have their own market now.
Yeah. Because it's like how like you said 300. Now what I'm seeing them to starting to do, which is getting interesting. So most of their homes there are green efficient, right? But they kept the same structure, body of it,
Right,
the same look. But now I'm starting to see where they're taking newer style modern homes, almost like homes that you would see more on west side of Cleveland
hmm
with like a metal roof and different things like that, and starting to put those into that same community. So they were having a little harder time selling those at those price points. So it's kind of interesting to see how that plays out with the values of those new construction houses because they changed up the design and just the overall look within that
right.
community. Um, And so I can see that impacting the value a lot as well. Is there anything that you could offer suggestions that people can do to help increase the values? Maybe as you're going through properties, you're noticing like, oh, why didn't they do that? If they would have did this, they could have got,
Right.
more.
Well, normally what has an effect on the value is the kitchens, of course, bathrooms, even if they, like you said, some areas, it may be a finished basement, new roofs, windows. So we take all that into consideration, those type of improvements.
Okay. Okay. Um, and then I do have this is a off the wall question, but about converting a multifamily into a single family home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how would you look, or any suggestions on doing something like that?
You mean what, value wise, or how to do it?
Value wise, like, would you look at that? Would it be when you would do your appraisal report on there? Would you, if it's been converted to a single
Well,
family?
first I would look to see if it was legally converted. That's
Okay.
means through the county.
Okay.
Then, like any other appraisal, so if it was converted, that means it may make the home a little larger than the area. It may or may not. So I would try to find homes that's comparable, bedroom, location, style, condition.
Okay.
Um, if not, like I said, I can go into a different area, but it varies. It just
Okay.
varies.
Okay. Okay. And then, is there anything that you want to share with everyone here that maybe I did not ask you about?
Well, I can say for realtors, when I am doing my search for comps, the remarks helps a lot, meaning you explaining everything, all the improvements in the home, the photos as well. That helps with picking comps for sales.
Okay.
Let me see, as far as homeowners or investors,
Is it hard going through a house when people are living? Vacant houses probably easy to do, but what about when people are living in there? Is
no,
there?
no,
It doesn't
it's
make it
not
hard.
hard. No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Because we looking at the structure. We're not looking at the furniture or anything. I'm
Okay.
looking at the windows, the condition of the windows. I'm looking at the kitchen, the condition. I'm looking at the overall condition.
Okay. How
So
long does it take to do an appraisal?
on the average home, I say about, I'm just estimate 2,000 square feet, maybe 30 minutes.
Okay.
That's for interior and exterior.
Okay. And then you have to go back and type your report.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's where the time come in the research.
Yeah.
But just for the inspection wise, I'll say about 30 minutes.
Okay. Okay. And then how can people connect with you if they want to have an appraisal done, if they're working, if they're an investor and they want you to do like a desktop appraisal for them?
You can call me 216 832 2822. My email is Marshall, MARSHALL, valuations, VALUATIONS, at sbcglobal.net.
All right. I'm just typing in the comments section for everyone. They can have that. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, thank you for joining me today. It definitely helps. We will always have questions about appraisals. So I'm glad you were able to come on and help answer, some of those questions that are out there. If this is your first time joining us today, please like or subscribe to the channel. I always like to give great information, tools, and tips and resources for you through the home buying process and just local information to here in Cleveland. So thank you for joining me today. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful Wednesday.
Take care.